Hey friends, welcome to One Little Coder. Today we're going to learn how to use OpenAI Whisper to create a podcast transcript creator. So if you are somebody who listens to podcast, you would know that typically podcasts are listened somewhere like either Google Podcast or iTunes Podcast or Stitcher or somewhere. Sometimes you just want to read the content, or if you are a podcast creator, sometimes you want to put the transcription in the description of your podcast that can help you in search engine optimization, people finding timestamp, but a lot of use cases. So this is a very important problem, and there are a lot of existing solutions that are solving it. But I don't know if there is any open source solution that can solve it at this point. So the intention of this video is to help you build a web application that can literally do podcast transcription. So you have to place the URL, the podcast is downloaded, and then it is transcribed and given it to you, and there'll be a download button which you can just click and download the file. And I think this is an exciting project. I'll get started right now. This Google Colab notebook will be in the YouTube description. All you have to do is go click the Google Colab and then start connecting it with your Google account so you can run it. The first step that we are doing is somebody also mentioned on Twitter that you need to first check whether the GPU is available or not. I think this is quite critical. So first thing, let's do GPU check. And again, like if you do not have Google Colab GPU available for you, I have a separate video that I have made to give you certain alternatives. I'll link the video either in the description or somewhere here and there, so you can definitely check it out. First, let's check GPU, NVIDIA SMI, GPU is available. The next step is we need to install two libraries. One is Whisper for OpenAI Whisper for transcription, speech to text. The second is Gradio for us to build the web application finally. So in this video, we are not just going to do transcription, we are also going to build a web application, and I'll also show you how the web application currently looks on Hugging Face basis where it is finally deployed. Once we successfully install the library, then all we have to do is import Whisper that will help us in doing the transcription. And also we want to write the transcribed file content, which is like in this case subtitle. So we have a utility file which function that says write wtt. So we have imported these two. Once we do that, we need to download the model. When it comes to the model, we have got a bunch of options. We have got a tiny model, we have got a small model, we have got a base model, and we have got medium model, we have got large model. So depending upon the kind of GPU that you have got, you can load the model that you want. As you can see, the medium model is a 769 billion parameter model, and I have a separate video where I'm doing model comparison. You can check it out as well. The medium model is a 769 million parameter model. If you want to hit more than billion, then you need to use large model, but otherwise I think medium should be fine. Based on the testings that I have done, medium has been quite good for me for English and for other languages as well. So I'm going with medium, but depending upon the GPU that you have got, please make sure that you change it accordingly. Now, the main thing, like at this point, our foundation is ready. Now what we have to do is we have to first we have to first get the podcast URL. So this code will work only if you have a Google Podcast URL. So all you have to do is head to Google Podcast, copy a URL link. Like for example, I can go and say affordable 3D printed bionics of the future. So I can copy this link, come back to my Google Colab, and then I can paste it. So I can come here, paste the link. After I paste it, it is assigned to an object called URL here. And then I can actually call it link. And then we have a link here. So we have a link, and then now we are getting into a new territory where we're going to go to the link, get the content of the link, and then find the MP3 inside it. I'm not going to get into the details, but that's what we are doing using regex. So import request, import RE. So request is for getting the content of the link, and then the next thing is we have to find MP3 file on the Google Podcast link, and that's what we are doing now. And we are going to display the MP3 file here, so you can see that the MP3 is available. Once the MP3 is available, I'm going to download the MP3 content as podcast.mp3 inside our current Google Colab session. So you can see right now we are downloading it. Once the download is completed, you can see that we have a file called podcast.mp3. But we'll create more files, but right now you can see podcast.mp3 is available. And now everything is ready. and all we have to do is model.transcribe, and that will take this podcast content, which is an mp3 file, which is you can see it's a 3.5 4 close to 4 MB file, 4 MB file, and it is going to do the transcription of the 4 MB file. And you can see how long it takes. I'm not going to edit this. I think it takes about like 1.1 minute ish, 1.5 minute ish, depending upon the size. It says like 1.3 minute, but you can see how much time it takes, depending upon the size of the podcast, depending upon the model that you're using, also depending upon the GPU that you have got access to. This time would change. For example, if you're using a tiny model, it would not take this much time, but again the accuracy would not be as good as this. If you are using a powerful enough GPU, this would take a lesser time. On the other hand, if you are using a CPU and if you are using medium model, this is going to take enormously lot of time, like for example like around 10 minutes or something. So this is a trade-off that you have to play with, and I mean it depends. Like for example, if you're going to deploy it on cloud, if you're going to offer this as a SaaS, maybe you don't want to deploy the largest model at the start. Deploy something that is smaller than the largest one, and then see what your users are responding to it, and based on that you can make a call about which model you want to deploy in the server so that people can use it. So it said 1.37 minutes, but you can see that it is finished in 1 minute 20 seconds, and it has also detected the language. And like any OpenAI Whisper project, this is also multilingual. Right now we are using it for English podcast, but you can use it for any podcast. At this point, we have successfully loaded. Let me even show you. We have successfully transcribed the podcast, and when we print it, you would get to see like the podcast timestamp and the details around it, all those things. You can play with the parameters as well, like the temperature and all those parameters you can play with. Once we have the result ready, the result object which has got all these details, now I'm going to write the subtitle, which in this case is like the transcription with timestamp. So the idea here is that if somebody wants to jump into a particular timestamp, it will be easier for them to do it. Next, we are going to read the subtitle or the timestamp caption with timestamp, or the transcription with timestamp that we ran, we just saved, and then display it just for us to see like how it looks. Like for example, you can see the 4th minute 31 seconds. You can see somebody said, in order to develop our prosthesis, the process will go like this. So you can basically search for it and jump into the particular timeline. That is also another use case where you can use this. So at this point, we have successfully done the transcription. We have saved the transcription. We have loaded the transcription, and that takes us to the final section of this video, where we are going to wrap this entire project into a Gradio web application, so you can deploy it, you can build MVP, pitch it to VCs, venture capitalists, whatever you want to do, you can do it. And as you know, if you are following this channel, you would know that Gradio, for you to build Gradio application, there are two different broader ways. One is the interface way, the other is the blocks way. So the interface class is very high level, which means it's very easy for you to build, but also it doesn't give you a lot of flexibility. The blocks approach, or the blocks class, will give you quite low level, so which means you have good depth, but also you have to play around with a lot of components. So it's how the trade-off is. So import Gradio as gr, import Whisper, from whisper.utils import write_vtt, import request, import os, import for regex. So like this is all what we used in the past. Now if you're running this other than Google Colab, let's say you're going to deploy this as Hugging Face Spaces, or if you're going to deploy this somewhere else, then please uncomment this, because this is required for you to download the model if this is the only set of scripts that you're going to use. But in our case, we have already downloaded the model, so I don't want to make the GPU again download a large model. So the next thing is we are going to create a function. As you know, with respect to Gradio, you always need three things. What are the three things? One is a function, second is the input, and third is the output. So whenever something is called, the input is sent to the function, and whatever the function returns, it is displayed as an output. So you can see we have a function, we have an input, and we have an output. And for that, we need a function. First, the name of the function is called inference, because we are actually doing inference here. and it takes a URL or link as an input, and then it does the same thing what we just downloaded. The only difference that you would see between this code and what we did before is, in the previous code we used a shell command to download the podcast MP3 in itself. Now we are using request.get to download the podcast as an MP3 file, but everything else is same. Finally, we are returning two things. One, we are returning the actual transcription of the podcast result of text. Second, we are returning the path of the subtitle, like where we have stored the caption with transcription with timestamp. The next thing is we need to give the title of the podcast. Title of the app. I'm calling this app Podscript, which later on I realized that there was already a project on internet called Podscript, but I think the author has taken it down. But anyways, I found the name cool, so Podscript. Description of the web application. Now is the main part where we are building the base object block. gr.blocks block. With block, first we have got an HTML part where I'm giving a title. I'm centerizing the tags. So within center, I'm going to show you the title, and then I've got an image that just shows like podcast. After we do that, we have a group created, and within the group we have a box, and within the box first we have a central text box where we can paste, the user can paste the Google podcast link, and we are not doing any validation at this point. This is an MVP, so if you want to take this forward, build validation there to make sure that it is a Google podcast link and it has podcast and all those things. Now the next thing is we are going to create a row, and within the row we are going to put a button which says get Podscript, which with a magic wand. The next thing is we have a text box, which in this case is not an input text box but an output text box. So that's what we are going to use to display the downloaded transcript. And then finally we are giving a button where people can download the transcript for their local machine if they want to do some post-processing, sentiment analysis, summarization, for whatever you want to do. And at the end we are saying we have a button which is here. Upon the click of the button, if the action or event is click, then call the function with the input with the output. And in output we have two outputs. One is the text where we are actually going to display the podcast transcript. Second, we are going to let them download the file in itself. So debug is equal to true will help us to debug like if there is any error. And if you're going to deploy this on Hugging Face spaces, enable queue equals true should also help you to manage multiple load. One change that you might want to do, if you are using a CPU, especially if you are on Hugging Face spaces, while you are transcribing, you might have to specify, but it can also itself detect and then make the change. So let me run this and see if my demo is going to fail or demo is going to succeed. So at this point you can see that we have the application running. Okay, that is good. And we have the Gradio application here as well. So I should probably open this in a new tab. So it's opening in the new tab. When it opens in the new tab, this is how it looks. So we have got the title Podscript. You can stylize it. We have got an image, and then we have got a Google podcast link where we can paste the link, and then we have a button. So let me go copy a different word maybe this time. What should I copy? Yeah, fun, fierce, fantastical African art. I'm going to copy the link here, come back here, click, this one, click this, paste it, and click get Podscript. And let's wait for a couple of seconds. I think it should take about like 1.5 minutes approximately based on what we have seen before. So it's going to download the podcast, it is going to transcribe the podcast, and it is going to finally show the podcast transcription, and also it's going to give you a file which you can download and enjoy the transcription. So currently it has taken 24 seconds. Meanwhile, what I'll do is I'll take you to the Hugging Face spaces. All you have to do is go to Google or wherever you are, huggingface.co, and you can click the spaces. So I've already deployed it as a spaces, and for you to deploy a Hugging Face spaces space, you need two important things. One is the app.py file, and the second one is the requirements.txt file. So the app.py file is basically what I've given here. Inside this, whatever I've given, you can take that and use that app.py file. The okay, I think I lost it. Okay, so now I've got the requirements.txt. Requirements.txt is where you are going to say what are the packages, libraries that you want to install. For example, we used OS, we used re. Those libraries are part of Python, so you don't have to separately install. So the libraries that we want to install a request, which we use to collect the podcast content, and also to install OpenAI Whisper. So once you have that, once you have app.py file, you should be completely fine to deploy your Hugging Face spaces. Now going back to our application, you can see that it has transcribed the entire podcast. Like for example, now if you are a podcast creator, this is very valuable. Like I've ran podcasts in the past, and I've always been lazy to create transcription because it's not very easy to create transcription. Either you have to type it or you have to use Google Pixel, go to a paid solution like Descript, and it's been always like this. And today we have a solution that can, like in a click of a button, can give you podcast transcription. Now all you have to do is copy this, paste it into your podcast page, share it with your friends. I mean, you can do anything with that. Or if you want to download the subtitle, you can just go here, click this, and it will download the subtitle or .vtt file, which you can open and edit in any text editor. Like even if you want to use Notepad, VS Code, any text editor, you can do it. And I mean, this is a web application, and you can see the same thing that is deployed here on Hugging Face spaces as well. So this is running on CPU. The one that I was showing you was running on GPU, and all these have been built purely using open source technologies. And I think that is a brilliant part about this. Not what I've created, but this entire thing is completely free, open source. You can literally take my Google Colab notebook and then start running it, and then you will have, I mean, you just have to uncomment this and then connect it to GPU. You will have a podcast transcript creator using open source solution free of cost that you can deploy in on any GPU based server or Hugging Face spaces if you're going to publicly use it. I hope this video was helpful to you. Let me stop it, otherwise Google might penalize me, and also disconnect and delete my runtime. Yeah, I hope this video was helpful to you in learning how to build a PodScript application, which is to download the podcast, do transcription, and let users read through the transcription or download the transcription. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, I'll see you with another speech to text tutorial. Peace.